Welcome to Dark Forces by Skoob, where we explore the unexplained mysteries that challenge our understanding of reality. I'm your host, Nile Cross, and today we're diving deep into a collection of paranormal encounters that have baffled investigators, terrified witnesses, and sparked debates that continue to this day. From police officers witnessing impossible phenomena to scientists documenting unexplainable events, we'll journey through cases that blur the line between reality and the supernatural. Let me start with something that might shake your preconceptions about paranormal witnesses. We often dismiss ghost stories as the product of overactive imaginations or attention-seeking behavior. But what happens when the witnesses are trained observers? People whose careers depend on their ability to accurately report what they see. Picture this. It's 1958, Long Island, New York. Detective Joseph Tazi of the Nassau County Police Department, described as one of their most astute investigators, is descending basement steps with a 13-year-old boy. Suddenly, a bronze horse statue, weighing nearly 100 pounds, strikes him in the back of his legs. Now, you might think someone threw it, but here's the thing. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a series of baffling events witnessed by numerous people over more than 4 weeks. This is just one example of law enforcement encountering the impossible. Fast forward to 1967, Miami, Florida. A warehouse becomes ground zero for phenomena that would challenge anyone's grip on reality. Police officers, newspaper reporters, television crews, and insurance agents, all watching as objects fly and tumble off shelves at impossible angles. Cowbells, ashtrays, keychains, rubber daggers, all moving when a 19-year-old shipping clerk was nearby. But it gets stranger. In 1970, St. Catharines, Ontario, an entire police shift declared their belief in poltergeists after watching furniture move erratically in the presence of an 11-year-old boy. Think about that. An entire shift of trained officers, people who've seen it all, convinced by what they witnessed. Officer John Holsworth, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, 1974, saw something that defied everything he thought he knew about physics. He watched a heavy refrigerator levitate, rotate, and then gently settle back on the floor in a factory worker's home. Gently, as if guided by invisible hands. Crossing the Atlantic, 1977 London. Constable Carolyn Keeps reported witnessing a chair move unaided for 3 to 4 feet. Earlier, in 1952, Runcorn, England, police officers weren't just witnesses, they were victims. They experienced peculiar incidents, allegedly caused by a quiet 17-year-old apprentice draftsman. Items like dressing tables, shifting through what appeared to be mental influence, spanning 10 weeks of documented activity. And in 1995, in the Netherlands, 2 police officers investigating alleged poltergeist activities had sand inexplicably thrown in their faces while inside a house. No wind, no explanation, just sand materializing from nowhere. These aren't ghost enthusiasts or paranormal investigators. These are skeptical, trained professionals whose testimonies carry weight in courtrooms. Yet here they are, documenting events that shouldn't be possible. The paranormal doesn't limit itself to crime scenes and police stations. Sometimes it walks into classrooms and doctors' offices, witnessed by educators and medical professionals who've dedicated their lives to understanding the natural world. Scotland, 1960. 11-year-old Virginia Campbell becomes the center of phenomena that left her teacher in awe and bewilderment. Picture being an educator, someone who believes in logic and learning, watching as your student attempts to hold down her desk lid which persistently lifts to angles of 45 to 50 degrees. The teacher watched Virginia struggle against this invisible force, using what appeared to be her mind to move objects both at home and at school. But perhaps the most compelling account comes from the late 1800s in Amherst, Nova Scotia. Dr. Jean Carrit, a medical professional trained to observe and diagnose, witnessed potatoes propelling across a room, not rolling, not falling, propelling. He also reported hearing deafening noises emanating from the roof of a house, sounds that had no logical source. These weren't brief glimpses or questionable sightings. These were sustained observations by people whose professions required careful, methodical observation. Dr. Carrit's medical training would have taught him to look for rational explanations. Yet he documented phenomena that challenged everything he understood about the physical world. The academic world took notice too. Dr. William Roll from Duke University, along with John P. Stump, a psychology student and paranormal researcher, reported observing astounding phenomena in Olive Hill, Kentucky, in 1968, in the company of a 12-year-old boy. Here, we have the intersection of academic rigor with the unexplained, researchers attempting to apply scientific methodology to events that seem to operate outside natural laws. What makes these accounts particularly compelling is the convergence of credible witnesses from different fields: law enforcement, education, medicine, and academia, all documenting similar phenomena across different locations and time periods. They had nothing to gain, and potentially much to lose professionally, by reporting such experiences. Now, let's travel to a small Long Island community that became synonymous with supernatural terror: Amityville, a name that still sends chills down spines decades later. But the true story behind the Amityville horror is far more complex than the best-selling book or blockbuster movie would have you believe. The 1970s saw haunted houses capture the public imagination like never before, transforming from folklore into a malevolent fascination that spawned countless horror films. At the center of this cultural phenomenon was Jay Anson's 1977 bestseller, The Amityville Horror. Promoted as a true story that sold exceptionally well and defined an entire genre. George and Kathleen Lutz knew exactly what they were buying when they purchased their dream home. Just over a year earlier, 23-year-old Ronald Defy Jr. had shot and killed 6 members of his family in that very house, his parents and 4 siblings, in October 1974. Despite this horrific history, the Lutzes decided to proceed with the purchase. What allegedly happened next became the stuff of nightmares. George began waking up at exactly 3:15 every morning, the estimated time of the Defy murders. Their children started sleeping on their stomachs, unconsciously mimicking the position in which the Defy family was discovered. The children began behaving erratically and reported sightings of glowing red eyes peering into their bedrooms from outside. The situation escalated so dramatically that the family fled the residence in less than a month, abandoning most of their belongings. Think about that, leaving behind everything you own because something in that house was so terrifying you couldn't spend another night there. Anson's narrative included a disturbing historical claim. According to the book, a member of the Amityville Historical Society informed the Lutzes that their property had been part of land used by the Shinnecock Indians for isolating the sick, insane, and dying, leaving them exposed to the elements until death. The area was allegedly avoided as a burial site due to demonic infestation. Paranormal researcher Hans Holzer and psychic medium Ethel Johnson Myers investigated the claims. The medium reportedly communicated with a Shinnecock chief spirit who suggested the house stood upon an ancient Indian burial ground, a revelation that seemed to explain the supernatural activity. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. As investigations progressed, the Amityville horror narrative began to crumble under scrutiny. Researcher Rick Osuna, committed to uncovering the truth, discovered that the Shinnecock people historically resided approximately 50 miles from Amityville. The closest human remains discovered near the house site were over a mile away. More importantly, it was highly unlikely that the Shinnecock, or any Native American group, would mistreat their ailing and dying in such an inhumane manner. It went against their cultural values and spiritual beliefs. The final blow to the Amityville legend came during a 1978 legal suit. William Weber, who served as Ronald DeFeo's defense attorney, confessed that he, along with the Lutzis, had fabricated the entire account. They had even provided the family with specific details about the DeFeo murders to lend credibility to their story. So what started as a tale of supernatural terror became a story of very human deception, but one that tapped into our deepest fears about the places we call home. Let's journey back to 1839, to a case that predates modern spiritualism, but contains elements that would become familiar to paranormal investigators. The story of R.O., an 18-year-old girl whose abilities both amazed and terrified those around her. Philosopher Heinrich Werner documented this case in Die Schutzgeister, or The Guardian Spirit. Like many individuals who reportedly experience paranormal phenomena, R.O. suffered from various health issues before her encounters with spirits began. But what set her apart was her apparent ability to enter a trance-like state at will, where she claimed to interact with spirits and gained clairvoyant insights. R.O.'s spiritual entourage included two distinct entities: Albert, a protective spirit who functioned like the spirit guides known to modern mediums, and a malevolent spirit in the form of an evil monk who seemed to take pleasure in creating chaos and testing the faith of observers. Werner himself became an unwitting participant in these phenomena. He heard an unusual noise, like a cup rattling on a saucer, coming from a small table in the room where R.O. claimed the malevolent monk resided. This wasn't a one-time occurrence. The noise escalated over time, displaying the progressive nature typical of poltergeist activity. When Werner expressed disbelief, R.O. claimed the monk was pleased by his skepticism, as if feeding off the doubt. In one particularly dramatic incident, Werner discovered two large flower pots violently thrown from a windowsill in an otherwise empty room. Soil was scattered everywhere. A curtain was twisted around a birdcage, and there was no sign of any breeze or other natural disturbance that could explain the destruction. Later, while in a trance, R.O. stated that the destructive monk was behind the incident, even though Werner had not mentioned it to her. She further claimed that Albert had driven the monk out of the house, suggesting an ongoing spiritual battle taking place around her. But R.O.'s abilities extended beyond communicating with troublesome spirits. Her clairvoyant powers consistently astonished Werner. She accurately predicted the arrival of a message about a chaise he had inquired about, and even described the vehicle in precise detail before it arrived. In another remarkable instance, she had a vision of her younger sister, Emily, falling from a window. She begged Albert for help, and later expressed gratitude, saying assistance had arrived. When Werner investigated, he learned that the event had unfolded exactly as R.O. had envisioned. Her father had saved Emily just in time. R.O. credited Albert for causing her father's sudden unease, which led him to check on his daughter at the crucial moment. Critics like Podmore and Dingwall questioned Werner's accounts, suggesting he should have conducted more thorough investigations. However, their skepticism seemed to stem from a fundamental disbelief in the possibility of spirit communication, rather than genuine concerns about Werner's observational skills or honesty. The real question isn't whether Werner investigated thoroughly enough, but whether his interpretations of the events he witnessed can be accepted. Werner's account aligns remarkably well with modern understandings of poltergeist behavior. Whether Albert is viewed as an actual spirit guide or as a manifestation of RO's subconscious mind, protecting her from psychological trauma, the phenomena he documented deserves serious consideration. The case of RO demonstrates that these mysterious experiences have been occurring and puzzling witnesses for centuries, long before modern media or the potential for fame could influence the accounts. Sometimes the truth behind alleged paranormal encounters is more disturbing than any ghost story. This brings us to Allison's experience on a ranch outside Sedona, Arizona. A case that illustrates how the line between extraterrestrial encounters and human deception can become terrifyingly blurred. Between the ages of 27 and 31, Allison believed she was abducted by aliens at least 5 times. The pattern was always the same and deeply unsettling. She would be in her living room, reading or watching television, when her dogs Lucy and Summer would begin pacing nervously and whining. This animal behavior seemed to serve as a precursor to something that defied explanation. What followed were episodes of lost time. Allison would suddenly find herself waking up hours later in a different room of her house, feeling groggy, suffering from severe headaches, and experiencing an intense dry mouth. The disorientation was complete and terrifying. In the days following these mysterious episodes, Allison experienced vivid dreams that seemed more like memories. These dreams consistently began with a sudden power outage in her home, followed by a deep humming sound from outside her window, and then brilliantly bright lights that engulfed her living space. In these semi-dream states, she recalled seeing small, shadowy figures moving swiftly around the room. According to her recollections, these figures carried her to a small spacecraft, where she underwent gynecological examinations and nasal probing, procedures commonly reported in alien abduction accounts. After these invasive procedures, she would be returned to a different part of her home as the visitors departed and the humming sound stopped. But the 5th alleged abduction changed everything. On this occasion, something went wrong with the usual pattern. Allison observed the humming sound stop just seconds after the supposed extraterrestrial beings entered her room. Uncharacteristically, she began to regain awareness in real time rather than hours later. Her disorientation was dissipating as she watched, and when she fully regained her senses, she didn't find the usual frail extraterrestrial figures. Instead, she saw a group of large men dressed in black combat-style uniforms. These weren't the gray aliens of popular culture. These were human beings engaged in some kind of covert operation. When they noticed her regaining consciousness, the men retreated cautiously. One of them gestured for her to remain still as they swiftly exited her home. Allison managed to make her way to a window just in time to witness something that shattered her previous understanding of her experiences. The men boarded an unmarked black helicopter. As the helicopter ascended to a considerable height, a powerful lamp illuminated the night sky around her isolated property, dispelling any notion of an otherworldly craft. This incident completely shifted Allison's perspective on her experiences. She now strongly believes she was not the victim of extraterrestrial abductions, but rather an unwitting subject in tests involving advanced military technologies. She suspects these technologies included equipment capable of subliminal hypnosis and mind manipulation, possibly non-lethal weaponry designed to interfere with the nervous system and temporarily impair physical movement. Her theory is that she was ensnared in a sophisticated military experiment designed to test equipment that could exert profound influence on the human mind and body. The alien abduction scenario may have been implanted to provide a cover story that would be dismissed by most people as fantasy, protecting the true nature of the experiments. This revelation suggests that Sedona, known for its alleged paranormal activity, might indeed host various enigmatic phenomena, but they may be terrestrial rather than extraterrestrial in origin. The implications are chilling. If Allison's conclusions are correct, then some alleged paranormal encounters might actually be covert military operations using unsuspecting civilians as test subjects. One of the most challenging aspects of paranormal investigation involves cases where genuine phenomena appear to occur alongside deliberate deception. This creates a complex web of truth and falsehood that can undermine entire investigations and leave researchers questioning everything they've witnessed. In 1974, Powhatan, Virginia, Dr. Gaither Pratt and his investigation team encountered this exact dilemma. Two children appeared to be at the center of poltergeist activity, but closer examination revealed they had manipulated some objects to simulate supernatural phenomena. When confronted, the children confessed, explaining that they had staged events to please the scientists. A heartbreaking revelation that showed how the desire to help and satisfy investigators could lead to deception. However, the story didn't end there. The children insisted they were not responsible for earlier occurrences, including chairs and a magazine that had seemed to spontaneously move through the air. Dr. Pratt affirmed that during some inexplicable incidents he had personally witnessed, such as a chair tilting backwards and crashing into a wall, the children could not possibly have been responsible. This left investigators in an impossible position. How do you separate genuine phenomena from manufactured events when both might be occurring simultaneously? The famous Enfield poltergeist case of 1977 to 78 in London presents an even more complex example. This case featured numerous credible witnesses, including police officers, who reported seeing furniture and toys moving under strange circumstances. Particularly in the presence of 11-year-old Janet Hodgson. As media attention intensified, Janet became a minor celebrity, and the peculiar occurrences escalated dramatically. The phenomena expanded to include a gravelly voice, allegedly that of an old man, that began issuing from Janet's mouth. This development attracted even more attention from investigators and media alike. However, Janet's sister reportedly informed a newspaper that both she and Janet had engaged in playful deception to sustain media interest. Journalist Ray Allen observed that the girls appeared to relish the attention generated by the moving objects, leading them to fabricate the mysterious voice as well. The situation became even more complicated when investigators captured footage of Janet attempting to bend spoons and an iron bar through sheer physical force, and even rehearsing levitation by energetically bouncing on her bed. When confronted with this evidence, Janet admitted to fabricating certain events, but maintained that not all incidents were faked. Her explanation was that she wanted to determine if the investigators would catch on to her tricks, turning the investigation into a test of the researcher's abilities. Maurice Gross, who led the investigation, acknowledged that accusations of deceit were common in cases involving children. However, he maintained that a number of legitimate paranormal events had occurred before the trickery began, emphasizing that genuine experiences should not be dismissed because of subsequent childish pranks. A similar scenario unfolded in Columbus, Ohio, involving young Tina Resch. Some witnesses believed she had the ability to psychokinetically move various objects, including a telephone. However, her credibility was severely damaged when video footage captured her deliberately pulling down a lamp. Tina's explanation was that she contrived this act to create a story for journalists who had been maintaining a vigil at her family's home for more than 9 hours and refused to leave. William Roll proposed an intriguing theory to explain these complex cases. He suggested that disturbances might have both paranormal and conventional origins simultaneously. Young people might manifest their internal anger and frustration toward family members through both mental, psychokinetic, and physical actions. This duality could offer insights into the psychological processes that might trigger authentic paranormal incidents. Roll theorized that aggressive tendencies in individuals might manifest through both ordinary destructive behavior and psychokinetic activity, creating a spectrum of phenomena that ranges from purely physical to potentially supernatural. However, once evidence of deception surfaces, the legitimacy of all previous phenomena becomes questionable. Paul Kurtz articulated a common skeptical position. If someone is discovered cheating, any subsequent demonstrations of their supposed abilities should be viewed with heightened skepticism. He suspected that investigators like Roll were being fooled due to a predisposition toward believing in poltergeists. Despite his skepticism, Kurtz didn't discount the possibility of genuine paranormal occurrences entirely. He acknowledged that resolute disbelief might prevent skeptics from accepting valid observations, leaving room for the possibility that some individuals might possess extraordinary capacities that operate alongside more conventional behaviors. This creates one of the most challenging aspects of paranormal research, determining which phenomena are genuine when deception has been proven to occur in the same location with the same individuals. As we close this chapter of Dark Forces, one truth becomes clear. Reality isn't as solid as we think. From law officers who saw the impossible to doctors, and teachers who documented the unexplainable, each story blurs the line between science, spirit, and something else. But what if the paranormal isn't supernatural at all? What if it's something human, something hidden? Could we be mistaking secret technologies for ghostly encounters? Or are we witnessing forces that science just hasn't caught up with yet? The answers might be closer than you think, and far stranger than you can imagine. Want to know what really happened next? Download the Skoob app now to unlock the full story and dive deeper into the mysteries that still defy explanation. Until next time, keep your mind open, because the truth might be waiting just beyond the veil.